Welcome to Emotionally Healthy Legacy. My name is Elizabeth, and I am a mom of 3 boys. My goal here is to educate you intentional ways that you can become an emotionally healthy mom, ways that you can break destructive patterns that have been happening for years, and how you can leave an emotionally healthy legacy with your children. Hello, welcome back, mamas, to a new podcast, and today we'll be talking about how to handle our children's anger and how to coach them and teach them positive ways to handle their anger. Now, if you've been around a little bit, you know that I talk a lot about emotional wellness and emotions and feelings in this podcast. That's what it's about. And the thing is, with our feelings and emotions, we all experience them. And if we shut down our emotions and feelings, they will come out later. And many times they come out in destructive ways. So they can either come out externally by saying and doing things that are hurtful to others around us, either physically or with our words, or we can internalize it and turn it on ourselves, that anger, which can eventually turn into anxiety and depression. And also, it will affect our physical health down the road, our mental health and our emotional health. So expressing anger, it's not bad. We just need to do it in a hopeful way. There's a verse in the Bible that says, "Be angry, but do not sin." And how I understand that verse, of course, everybody has kind of their own interpretation, is it's not wrong or bad to be angry. It's what you do with that anger and how you handle that anger that can be either hurtful or helpful. And if we just suppress it, it's going to come out in other ways eventually. And many times then it just kind of boils up, and then we have a huge explosion and we wonder where it all came from. So our job as parents is, when our children are experiencing anger, seeing it as a normal thing. It's a normal emotion. We all experience it. And what we can do is guide them and help them in that anger instead of just suppressing it. So number one thing that I want to talk about is that in order to help our children when they are angry, we need a proactive plan, a plan that we do ahead of time, a plan that we actually even talk to our kids ahead of time. So I do this with my kids. So this is how it goes. I tell them it's okay to be angry, and sometimes we all get angry, but when we are angry, there's a safe way to be angry and there's a hurtful way to be angry. And we can talk about some ideas that are safe and some ideas that are not safe. So what are some hurtful ways you can be angry? And we talk about how hitting others or saying mean and rude things are hurtful ways to be angry, or throwing things at others are hurtful ways. There's plenty of other ways, like anger can be expressed in hurtful ways, right? Slamming the door is not helpful. It's actually dangerous. You can hurt somebody when you do that. But there are safe ways that you can express anger. And I teach that to my kids. And the thing is, teaching them outside of the moment. Because when you are in the moment and you're trying to teach your child something, when they are feeling angry, nothing is registering. If you remember the thinking, feeling, and survival part of the brain, the thinking part of the brain is shut off. When you don't teach your child ABCs when they're throwing a tantrum. You just don't. If anybody tries to teach you something and telling you how you're wrong when you're already frustrated and angry, you literally just tune them out. The brain is not able to process any of it. It's just science. It's not able to understand any of it. It just tunes it out. So in order for you to have a plan, and we talk about with your kids ahead of time, the anger is normal. It's okay to be angry, but we are going to learn safe ways to handle anger. And here are safe ways and here are unsafe ways. And what do you think you want to do when you're feeling angry? what things can be helpful for you. So here I'm going to list a few things some ideas for you when your child is angry that are safe, physically are safe. And the thing is with kids, because their brains are immature and because their survival part of the brain is developed when they're born, you want it or not, you've seen this with toddlers. They're a lot more physically aggressive than older kids. Well, I guess older kids can too be aggressive because they don't know how to handle their emotions well. But toddlers are very impulsive. So if somebody takes a toy they were playing with, they're just going to hit automatically because they go to survival part of the brain really, really quick. And survival part of the brain is physical. It will come out in physical aggression. And it's not safe, right? It's not safe to hit others. And what we can do in that moment, because many times children, and sometimes some adults too, they need a physical way to release that anger and frustration. That's why some people exercise. Some people go to punch a punching bag. Some people need that physical release, and kids tend to need the physical release to get that anger out. So some of the things that I do with my kids is I give them a notepad and I tell you, show me how angry you are. And I give them a pen or a marker or a crayon, whatever, pencil. I'll be like, show me how angry you are. And have them scribble on paper. And often that can release their emotion. That anger and frustration helps them travel that curve, that wave faster of that emotion. Another thing that I do with them is I have a box upstairs in their closet of random papers or magazines, or I don't know, we have some Lego instructions in there. We all have random papers around the house that we don't need. But ripping paper, especially if we're like upstairs and I see one of my kids is just really having a hard time, I said, do you want to go rip some paper? We take that box out and they just rip the paper. They rip it and they crumple it up and they throw it on the wall, and it's like a physical release for them. Punching a pillow, stomping the floor. I personally allow my kids. My husband, not so much. He doesn't like this idea, but I don't mind them stomping the floor. I don't let them hit other items with their feet. When they are angry, I say you can stomp the floor. Stomping the fridge is not okay, but you can stomp the floor. And that's also like a physical release. It's safe. They're not hurting anybody when they do that. And it's like a physical release of that frustration and anger. Pushing a wall. That is another one that they're not going to hurt themselves or anybody. It's a physical release. You just push as hard as you go, With my little one, I do that with my 6-year-old and with my 3-year-old. My 9-year-old won't do this, but pushing my hands. So if they're super angry and frustrated, I say, hey, give me your hands. You're going to push mommy's hands as hard as you can. So he's pushing me and I push him back. And so then it almost becomes like this game, and they think it starts being funny, and they actually helps them get out of that emotion and that feeling faster. And then we also have a box of soft toys, and my kids don't use this one as often, but that's another thing, that we have a wall that we can throw soft toys at. And it's just stuffed toys. And we have an agreement. You don't get to throw it at anybody else. You can only throw it at the wall. And we throw the soft toys at the wall when you're super frustrated, when you're super angry. Those are just some ideas for you. So my kids are 10 and under, 9 and under actually. To tell you the truth, I can't tell you much about kids that are older than that because I just don't have experience in it, but my kids are younger. And so this is the things that I do with them. And many times, with my oldest, his anger gets intense. His anger gets big. And sometimes it feels unsafe to me. And that is the emotion I struggled with the most accepting, because in my family of origin, anger was not okay. It was just not an emotion that was accepted. It was shut down. Why? Because my parents didn't know any better. That's what they grew up in. They thought, okay, it's sinful to be angry, so your anger needs to be shut down. And so that's what they would do by threatening. Our anger would be shut down. And so that emotion becomes very uncomfortable for me to be around. So I feel very uncomfortable. I really had to work through this with a therapist when it comes to my children, especially my oldest. When he's feeling angry, like now I feel fine when he feels angry. I understand it's just an emotion, and then he needs some help through it and guidance and helpful ways to release that anger. And that's what I do now. But before, I really, really struggled with him being angry because his anger would be big, intense, and I felt like it was a threat to my brain and it felt unsafe. And that's why I had to stop it. Like that was my initial response, is to stop it. Now I do this with my son. I'm like, you can either push the wall, you can go punch a pillow, or we can take some deep breaths to calm your body down, to get your anger out. It's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to hurt others when you're angry. And so I talk about this a lot with my kids outside of the moment. And I use the terms like safe and unsafe. There's safe ways to handle anger and there's unsafe ways. And so we talk about safe ways and unsafe ways. And then there are hurtful things people do when they're angry. And then there's helpful things you can do to help that anger get out of your body without hurting anybody else. And I will say that your anger right now is not safe. You can either take some deep breaths or you can punch a pillow or push a wall. What do you want to do? He's like, neither. I'm like, okay, it looks like you're having a hard time choosing, then mommy's going to choose for you. He's like, no, neither. I'm like, okay, then I will choose. I will choose that we're going to take some deep breaths. And I'm like, you're not safe around your siblings right now. You're saying and doing hurtful things. We're going to have to stay here until you feel safe and your body is calm again. And so like I give him choices, things that he can do, because the thing is when you're in an emotional or survival part of the brain, your thinking brain is shut off. And so these skills to handle anger in a helpful way live in that thinking brain. And if that thinking brain is shut off, your child can't access these skills. So your job as a parent is to help them access the skills by reminding them and guiding them what they can do. So many times we say, well, you can't do this, can't do that. You can't throw this. You can't punch your brother. You can't do this, which is right. They can't. They shouldn't do that. But what do you give them instead? You're not giving them any other option besides just shutting down that feeling, which is going to come out later in other ways. Either internally into themselves, or it's going to come out externally in other ways. It's going to come out in their words or their body later on, because it's just collecting on the inside, right? So I think for me personally, this was like the most challenging emotion. I can deal with my kids being disappointed. I can deal with them being sad. I can feel with them feeling jealous. I can feel, I can deal with them, feeling a bunch of other emotions. But when it comes to anger, that feeling is like the hardest one for me not to get sucked into, not to respond in anger myself, to keep my cool, and to be comfortable with that feeling. That's the thing. I get so uncomfortable with that feeling. To me, it was not allowed in my family, and I understand the reasons why. And it's not that I want my kids to feel that this emotion is safe. This feeling can be handled, this uncomfortable, hard feeling can be handled in a safe way. And I will help you do that. I will help you. And my job also as a mom is to model that. When I feel angry, what do I do? When I feel angry and frustrated, what do? I tend to walk away from the situation. I say, I'm feeling angry right now. I'm going to say hurtful words and I don't want to use those words. I need to take a break and I will walk away and take some deep breaths. I tell my kids, I need to take a break. I feel really angry and frustrated right now, and I take some breaths. For me personally, I don't really need the physical release as much. It's just not my personality, but some people do. And is it push-ups that you need to do? Do you need to go punch a pillow? Do you need to go push a wall? Do you need to go squeeze one of those, stress balls? Is that what you need to do to get some of that physical release? Do you need to go punch the air? That's okay. That's safe. You're not hurting anybody. It looks weird, but you're getting that physical release out of your body. So then it processes that emotion and it doesn't stay stuck inside of you and it doesn't cause all the other issues it can down the road. Okay, so what do I want you to get out of this podcast today is that feelings are okay. We all have them and they are like a wave, and we need to allow those feelings to come and release, but there are helpful ways to do it and hurtful ways to do it. And our job as a parent is to model helpful ways to do it ourselves and also teach and coach our children how to handle their big feelings, let's anger or being super mad or frustrated, in a helpful way. Number 2, we need to talk to them and teach this to them outside of the moment when they're not being angry, when they are calm, because that's when their brain is able to take in that information and process it. And then you can practice it with them if you want to. During that time, say, okay, next time when you're angry, what do you want to do? Here are the 2 options. Which one do you want to do? And we can practice it and do it together. They love ripping paper. They think it's like the coolest thing, and crumpling it up and throwing it even at each other. It's fun. Paper's not going to hurt any of them. That is number 2. Number 3, in the moment when your child is already experiencing anger, there's not much you can do because they are in their survival part of the brain, to stop that emotion and to get them out of it. All you need to do is wait for that wave to finish and to come down. Your job as a parent in that moment is to keep them physically safe, yourself safe, and others around you. So if they are becoming physically aggressive, you need to either remove them from the situation. If your child is little, you can hold their body, their hands, and hold it still and say, okay, your body's not safe right now. Mommy's going to help you. If it's an older child, you need to pull them away from a child they're trying to hit or hurt. And I use the words, that's not safe. I need you to stop. Here's what you can do instead. I see that you're really angry and frustrated. Hurting your brother is not okay, is not safe. I set a limit. Do you want to take some deep breaths or do you want to stomp the floor? Those are the 2 options, or whatever options you come up with, with your child when you brainstorm. So those are the takeaways I have from today. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. To me, this information was really, really helpful because I grew up with anger was not allowed. Okay, well, now that I learned that emotions need to be expressed, and I'm like, okay, well, anger's super unsafe. How do I teach and help my kids express it in a safe way? I needed to learn ways and skills to do it. And I tell you what, this is going to take, again, many, many times of practice. This doesn't come automatically. They've been doing it, if your child is 5, 6, 7, a certain way for 7 years, and we need to reteach them to do it differently. There's certain things that just happen automatically, and those hurtful choices and those hurtful physical aggression, it just happens automatically. So we need to teach and coach our children to do differently, and being with them in that anger, in the moment, staying cool is also a way for their brain to feel more safe, and it helps them travel that curve faster. If you get sucked in and you get angry with them, which is so easy to do, oh, so easy to do. I've been there so many times. But if you're able to stay cool and seeing, okay, they're struggling, they're having a hard time, they need my help. I'm the mature adult here. I've got this. I'm safe. I can do this. And you're the one that's guiding them and helping them. It helps their brain to see that as a safe thing and not a threat. And they're able to travel that way faster instead of staying in that anger longer. Okay, so this is it for today. If this has been helpful for you, I would so appreciate if you would share this with another mom that comes to mind. If she has a child that is struggling with big emotions and maybe she doesn't know how to handle it well and she gets overwhelmed and frustrated with it, maybe it will be helpful for her. So I'd really appreciate if you would share this along with somebody else. And I will see you next time. If you're a mom that struggles with handling her challenging emotions in a healthy way, listen up. I got a tool for you. If you go in the show notes of this podcast, you will see a link where you can sign up for a 5-day free mini course. And in that mini course, you get to learn actual practical things that you can do in the moment and outside of the moment to be more patient and calm, so you're not as overwhelmed, so you're not as stressed, and actual ways to learn to de-stress yourself and calm your nervous system down. How often do we hear that we shouldn't react, we should respond? And the problem is, well, how? In the moment, I don't know how because I'm so overwhelmed and so triggered. In this mini course, you get to learn the how. I am so excited that I have these skills that I can share with you. So go in the show notes, click on the link, enter your email, and then you can start the 5-day free mini course.